We'll do a review in Likkutei Sichos in the Chelek Chav Zayin, volume 27. This is the Sicha for Chag Hapesach, for Pesach. And we're learning this Lilu Nishmas, Lid Yitzchok ben Chaim Tzvi, who was a successful, dedicated shaliach in New Jersey, and untimely passing, and we're learning it Tehei Nishmosei Tzurur B'Tzurur Achayim Lilu Nishmosei, to benefit of his soul. In this Sikha, the Rebbe discussed the fifth cup. We all know that Pesach we drink 4 cups, but actually in the Gemara there is a fifth cup. There is actually in the Gemara itself, it's not so clear, but it's brought down in the Poskim. According to some versions, there is a fifth cup, and the question is, how do we do the fifth cup? The Rebbe is going to explain the Rambam, what the Rambam means. It's very difficult to, on the surface, the different explanation, and the way the Rebbe is going to explain that because the Rambam doesn't want to rule straight like the Chachamim that don't have a fifth cup, and he also doesn't want to totally negate Rabbi Tarfon according to that version that does have a fifth cup, because the Gemara discusses Rabbi Tarfon's opinion, and usually when you discuss an opinion, it means that the Gemara assumes halacha. So how do we do it in actuality? So the Rebbe says that's sort of a compromise, but which means we pour the fifth cup, but we don't drink it. And also, as the Rebbe says, this is not doing 4 cups better, but this is like a new idea. We'll see in the Sikha. The Rebbe also explains that we should not mistake this with what we call the Kois Shel Eliyahu, brought down in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, that we do. This is something different, as the Rebbe will explain in the Sikha. But right now we'll go step by step. Aleph, Chag HaPesach. Beim Siyum von dem Seder Asiyas Mitzvahs Eilu Belel Chamisha Osor. In the end, when the Rambam goes through the order of doing these mitzvahs on the night of the 15th, that's the Seder night, Nochem Kois Revi, after the Rambam talks about the 4th cup, Zog the Rambam says, V'yesh loy limzoik Kois Chamishi. And he should pour a 5th cup. And what do we do with that 5th cup? V'loimer olav halal hagodl. To say on that 5th cup, the large halal, that's the Hoidul Hashem Ki Tov, the capital Kuf Lamed Vav in Tilim, Hila Godl, V'hu Mahoidul Hashem Ki Tov, from Hoidul Hashem Ki Tov, Perek Kuf Lamed Vav, till Ad Ki Al Naras Bavel. Naras Bavel starts Kuf Lamed Zayin. So the entire Kuf Lamed Vav, the 26 Kiloilam Chazdes, that's what we say. We actually say Halal HaGodl on the 4th cup. But here in this Rambam, in the 5th cup, the Halal HaGodl is said on this 5th cup. And then the Rambam adds, this cup is not mandatory, it's not obligatory, as are the other 4 cups. So the Rambam says he should pour a 5th cup. He should say the Halal HaGodl. But the Rambam also qualifies it by saying it's not such an obligation like the 4 cups. So what does it mean it's not such an obligation? He should do it. So we'll see, the Rebbe brings down from the different commentaries that some say it is totally voluntary. It's like, don't have to drink. If you want, you can do it. But the Rebbe argues that the language doesn't really fit, because the Rambam says it's not mandatory like the 4 cups, but it does sound that it is somewhat mandatory. It's not like totally optional. So So the Mokarev Kois Chamishi, what is the source for a fifth cup of cloud? Is in Braisa, that's in the Braisa. But also, Loit the Girsas HaGeoinim, according to the version that the Goinim had in the Braisa, in the Gemara, in Psochim, by them they read Chamishi Ol Einer Olav Halal Hagodol Divrei Rabbi Tar. That the fifth one says, you say Halal Hagodol, that's the words of Rabbi Tarf. So that's the version, that's the girsa of the Goinim. But other girsos, like in our Gemara, like Rashi and the Rebbe will bring down, we don't even have this Bechlal, so we don't have a fifth cup. But according to that, that's the opinion, according to the girsa of the Goinim, the words of the Rambam. So state in Sefer Rabbeinu Menoyach for Rambam. So in the Sefer Rabbeinu Menoyach and the Rambam, he says, Mahosha Minon, we learn from this halacha, the fact that the Rambam says that you say drink the fifth cup, we learn from here the Asur Lemishti Ayin Achar Arba Koises. So the halacha that you're not allowed to drink any more wine once you finish the 4 cups. Why? If you're going to think that one after you finish the 4 cups you can still drink, so why do we require to say halal hagadol? Let him just drink the cup. In other words, Rabbi Manoach assumes that this cup is just drinking wine. It's optional. He doesn't have to drink it. But so why do we require him? He's asking on the Rambam. Why does the Rambam require him to say halal hagadol? Let him just drink wine. Is the chasimen that ain't le lishtes? But if he wants to drink, he shouldn't drink any more wine. That's what we see. But if he wants to drink, then you need to say something on this cup. Dumya de Revi is similar to the 4th cup, which is Minyono de Halolo or Minyono de Yitzias Mitzrayim. It is of the subject of praising Hashem and of the subject of the Exodus of Egypt. That's some of the things that you should say on the 5th call. Ubalav Hochi also listens, but without it is prohibited to drink. You see from this Rabbeinu Manoach that to him this is just drinking wine. And he reads it as the Rambam wants to say that you could drink the wine if you really want to, but then you'll have to say the halal hagadol. But if a person doesn't want to drink wine, then the Rabbeinu Manoach learns in the Rambam, then there's no inyan, there's no idea about all of drinking a 5th cup. From divrei Rabbeinu Manoach is verstanden. So from these words of Rabbeinu Manoach, it's understood. As learned divrei Rambam, he says, what the Rambam says over here, the Rambam says, as der Kois Chamishi is an inyan fun reshus, that the 5th cup is an option, it's a matter of optional. So what does the Rambam mean when he says v'yesh loy limzok? It's not that he needs to do that. V'yesh loy limzok means meint a heter. If you want to drink wine, so in order to allow you, there's no 5th cup needed. Rabbeinu Manoach learns in the Rambam. But v'yesh loy limzok, which means if it's a permission, it's an allowance. Im rotza lishtes, if you want to drink. So we're telling you, you have to say in the cup. The Rambam is just giving you the way, the heter for drinking wine after the 4th cup by saying the words of halal. Halal hagadol. With the shita from Kama Goinim, and this fits with the view of many Goinim, the way Rabbeinu Manoach understands the Rambam. As the Kama Goinim, as Kois Chamishi is Rishus Mamish, that the 5th cup is actually totally optional. It's there's nothing to drinking a 5th cup. Besides, if you want to drink it, then you have to say halal. As kois chamish is rishus mamash, it's actual optional. Sie is in ganzen totally berzoine. It's totally dependent if you want to. The language the Rebbe argues, the yesh limzik, does not really fit that it's totally optional. Aber der Pirush is lechoyre nit glatik in Loshen Rambam. This interpretation is seemingly not smooth in the language the Rambam uses. From the Rambam is Messiah Kinal. The Rambam concludes, as we mentioned before, the koize eine choive k'moy arba kois. This cup is not as obligatory. It's not mandatory like the four cups. It seems like there is something to it. It's just not to the extent of the other four cups. Is there kois chamishi klal nit begeder chayva? If we should say that according to the Rambam, the fifth cup is at all not mandatory at all. There's nothing to it. But the Rambam gedarf zogum bekitzer. The Rambam should have said briefly, in short, the koif ze eine chayva. It's not an obligation. Why does it say it's not obligation like the other four cups? From the length in the language of the Rambam is mashma, it appears as that even this fifth cup has also some mandatory to it, some obligation. She's nor the only difference is it's not as mandatory as the four cups. It is not it's not to such an extent, so much obligation, like the four cups. So the Rebbe says in the language of the Rambam, it doesn't fit, it's not smooth to say that there's no obligation at all for the fifth cup. It's just if you want to drink it, it's totally up to the person. That doesn't fit because the Rambam says it's not as mandatory as the other four cups, but the Rambam doesn't sound like this is totally optional. Or else she says, why does he have to say not as mandatory? And this is also the opinion that it is somewhat mandatory, but we find in the Ran. Mashma beran in Psachim. So it also appears in the Ran, on the Gemara in Psachim, he writes in the words of Rabbi Tarfon. He says as follows: the Dalet Koises Choiva. The four cups are mandatory. V'chamishi Rishus. And the fifth is optional. The Imrotza Lishtois, and if he wants to drink, Oimer Olav Halil Hagodol. If he wants to drink, then he says Halil Hagodol. That's one interpretation. Inami, or he says the mitzvah mina muvchar lishtes kois chamishi. It's the mitzvah and the most perfect and the choicest way is to drink a fifth cup. V'loimer olav halal hagadol, and to say the great halal, the perikuf lamed vav in Tilim. V'hainu lishna. This is the language, the oimer olav halal hagadol. That this is the language that he says on it halal hagadol. That is the perfect, the better way to do it. Kach matin divrei harambam zal. This is also the words of the Rambam are tilting to this inami that this is mitzvah nabuchor. That is the halacha that we're saying now. Hilchos chametz u'matzah. Hainu. So what does it mean? So we see that the Rambam, not like the Rabbeinu Manoach that says that this is totally optional, you don't have to at all. But he says no. As a learn das Rambam, the Ran learns the opinion of the Rambam as the kois chamishi is mitzvah ben amuvchot. The fifth cup is a mitzvah in the choicest way, in the most perfect, best way. And the far is the Rambam moisiv. That's why the Rambam adds Because it is not as obligatory as the other four koitz. It means this is also an obligation, but it's not straight obligation like the other four cups. As aval pi, as yesh loy limzik, even though that he should really pour this fifth cup. This is a mitzvah min hamuvchar. It's a mitzvah in the best way. Von destet wegen, and still yet, because it's not as mandatory as the four cups. So the Maran learns in the Rambam opposite than the Rabbeinu Monach. Rabbeinu Monach says it's totally optional. But the Rebbe has a shverikite. If it's totally optional, why does he say you're not obligated like the other? It seems there is a little obligation. The Ran goes on the other way. The Ran says that it's actually the mitzvah min hamufchar. But the Rebbe is not happy with the Ran's interpretation either, because it doesn't sound in the Rambam that it's a mitzvah min hamufchar. Then the Rambam shouldn't say v'yesh le'limzek. He should say mitzvah min hamufchar. The Yeshle Limzik seems to be sort of a compromise between it's not as obligatory, and yet it is somewhat of an obligation. It's not just mitzvah min hamuvchar. According to the Ran's interpretation, it's the mitzvah of the drinking of the cups is a fifth cup, is the best mitzvah, best way to do the mitzvah. But the Rebbe says the Rambam doesn't write that. Aber der Pirush is lechoire nicht den ganzen glattig in Loshen Rambam. This interpretation of the Ran is not completely smooth in the language of the Rambam. But al bizeh, according to the Ran, will the Rambam geschrieben befedish. The Rambam would have written explicitly as the common language in many places. Mitzvah min hamuvchor limzik kos chamishi v'loimerol of halal agod would say the best way to do the mitzvah is to pour a fifth cup and to say the entire haluk is similar to it. The Rambam doesn't say that. He doesn't say it's a mitzvah min hamuvchor. He says yesh loy is mashma. It's not just the mitzvah in the best way. There's something about this. You should do it, but still it's not. So what is it? How do we say do it, but it's not mandatory? What is that? From Loshen HaRambam is mashma. From Loshen has mashma. As a sistaka do in the machiyu. There is an obligation, v'yesh loy. Aber she's need mamish a mitzvah a kolponim. Mina mufchar. It's not an actual mitzvah, or even if it's a mufchar, it's not actually a mitzvah. Und der Fahrer sagt der Rambam nor v'yeshle limzek chulu. It's not actually a mitzvah. It's not even a mitzvah mufchar. It's something that he should do, but it's not really a mitzvah, but there's a somewhat of an obligation. So what is it? As the Rebbe will explain. And the Rebbe will explain, as mentioned earlier, that this is actually a compromise between the Rabbon and Rabbi Tarfon and others, as we'll see in this year. But first, the Rebbe points to the fact that all the other cups, there's a mitzvah to drink them. You make a bracha and you drink each cup for what they are designed, specifically the first cup for Kiddush, etc., all the cups. And you make a bracha and you drink them. By the fifth cup, the Rambam himself doesn't bring down any drinking of it. It just talks about pouring. What's going on up here? Why does it say just pour? And what's the value of pouring? We'll see. Base. That will be explained now. Wenn man das verstehen, Apidiuk Haloshen, the Rambam, about the precise language in the words of the Rambam. Benegeya to the Dalet Koises, as it relates to the four cups, Paskin the Rambam rules, Kol, Kois, Vekois, Marbo, Koisus, Alolu. Each and every one of these four cups that we drink on the night of the Seder, Mevorich Olav Bracha Bifnei Atzmo. You make independent bracha. You don't make a better priyagofen once and yotze everything, but you make, and each cup that you drink, you make its own better priyagofen. Bringt euch was me sagt auf jeden von the Dalet Koise. The Rambam also quotes, brings down what exactly is that you say on each one of the four cups. Und noch in dem Seder Asiyas Mitzvahs Elu B'Leil Chamisha Oyser. Also, when he goes through how the order makes the Seder of we do the mitzvahs on the night of the Seder night Chamisha Oyser, is a mefaret, he specifies, he details by jeden kois, by each cup, as is shoy, so you drink it. By kois rishon, he says, mevorach beide priyagofen, he makes the blessing beide priyagofen, v'omer olav kiddush hayoim, uzman, you say kiddush, of the day you say shechion uzman, uzman hazeh, and v'shoy, so you drink. So you see, there's a bracha, and you drink it. By kois sheni, by the second cup, he says, mevorach beide priyagofen, you make the blachber b'shoisa kois hasheni. You drink the second cup. The kois shlishi, by the third cup, the Rambam writes in the Seder, mevorach birchas hamazon al kois shlishi. Make the birchas hamazon on the third cup v'shiseyu, and you drink it. By kois revi also says mevorach beirich pri hagofen. Doesn't say shiseyu, but it's understood. It makes the bracha beirich hagofen. The ene toyer acharkach, which means here that's his last. Afterwards, klum, he doesn't taste anything. Which he drinks it also. So in all four cups, the Rambam specifically details and says that you make a bracha and you drink it. By kois chamisha ober, zog the Rambam nor kinal, by the fifth cup, the Rambam also says, as mentioned earlier, yesh loy limze kois chamishi, you should pour a fifth cup, v'loy merolov halal hagodol, and to say the big halal perikuf lamed vav from Tehillim. When there is nit Messiah, mevorach beide priyagofen v'shoyse. He doesn't conclude to make the bracha beide priyagofen and then drinks it. Again, the Rebbe specifically says even by the fourth cup, it doesn't say shoyse, but it's understood because it says afterwards you don't taste it. That means that he drank it. But here the Rambam by the fifth cup, it doesn't say. It just says you say halal godum. It doesn't say about beide priyagofen. It doesn't say that he drinks it. And the Rambam didn't just leave it out because the Rambam is everything precise. It must mean that the Rambam is actually telling us that you don't drink it and you don't make a bracha about pi hayedua. Goydel hadiyuk shel Rambam b'lashon. Based on what we know, the great precise, how precise the Rambam is in his language, is their full movement. So from that's understood. Ados gufa is kavanos l'daik, that this actually meant to precisely. His intention is so that you should derive as the kois chamish ismen nit shoysa. You do not drink the fifth cup. Venezim nor moizek, you just pour it. Umezoktivim halal hagodl, and you say the great halal. Kuf lamed vov, the big halal. This is euch move on mit vorov lifneza. That's also understood from the Rambam's words beforehand. It says, "V'achar kach." You see that clearly that you're not going to drink it, because how would the Rambam say after the fourth cup, and after this you're not allowed to taste anything, and then just go ahead and say, you pour another cup? We just finished. He contradicts himself. If it means that you drink it, if the Rambam means that you drink it, or you forgot to write it that you drink it, if that's what the Rambam meant, he would be contradicting himself. This is also understood. Besides the fact that the Rambam doesn't mention it and the precise like the Rambam, it's also understood from what the Rambam wrote before it. It says, you pour the fourth cup and you conclude the halal, which you started by the second cup, and you finish the halal. And you make the better priyagofen. And all out, you don't taste anything. Water is okay, exception is what? Is the poshut, so it's obvious. So the Rambam, that take a behemshach devorah nitzom, and that the Rambam in the flow, continuous word, won't say Hapesach mezeh, just the opposite, as me trinkt a kois yayin, lach noch kois revi. Why would he be saying that you drink a cup after the fourth cup? So we see the Rebbe is very clear that this fifth cup, what the Rambam is talking about, not like the other four cups where you make a bracha and you drink it. This you don't make a bracha, you don't drink it. And that's the precise language. That's what the Rambam doesn't bring down drinking and making a bracha. And it also fits because he just said you don't drink anything afterwards. What would he be bringing down the kos chamishi to drink? So what is the meaning? Why are we pouring this fifth cup and why we're not drinking? And this the Rebbe is going to explain the view of the Rambam to find sort of a middle ground between the Rabbon and the Rabbi Tarfon about whether we need this fifth cup. And the compromise that the Rambam makes is pour it, but don't make a bracha. And the Rebbe will show that sometimes we make a cup without a bracha. That also is worth counts. Gimel. Yashlem Rabbi Urbaz, we can say the explanation of this. The Rambam learned with the deis. The Rambam learns as the opinions was ein mefarish that explain as Rabbi Tarfon is mechulak mit das hatan didon. That Rabbi Tarfon is in disagreement with the Tan of the Mishnah in Psochim. In the Mishnah says 4 cups, and Rabbi Tarfon disagrees with him. And he said there's a 5th cup. Tziz mi is mechuyev in arba koisus or the chamisha koisus. How many cups are you obligated to? 4 or 5. If this is a disagreement between the Tanakam and Rabbi Tarfon, so you should rule like the Tanakam. It's like our Tana. You're only obligated 4 koisos. There should not be a 5th kos. So that's if we go by our Mishnah, brings down the stam that you drink 4 cups, and if Rabbi Tarfon disagrees, halacha remains like our Mishnah. So there would not be a 5th cup. However, the idachabe gefitmen as the Gemara is shakel v'tari libe the Rabbi Tarfon. In the Gemara, there is a debate that we're trying to figure out Rabbi Tarfon. Bosman zokt them koisei, which we said, what is said on the 5th cup? Where does it start? Some say it starts from Kuf Lamed Vov. Some people say you say I'm not as Vov the Kuf Lamed Hey, the chapter beforehand. Now, whenever there's a debate in the Gemara about if it's not La Locha, why would we be discussing if you don't say it anyways? That implies that there is somewhat that the Gemara thinks that the halacha is like Rabbi Tarfon. That's why we want to find out where we say it. Is the fun mashma? So from this it would appear Adas Rabbeinu Tam Rabbi Tarfon is Yalgenu Lalocha that the opinion of Tarfon has yet been accepted Lalocha. Fact that the halacha is like a Stam Mishnah that tells us we don't drink a 5th cup. And according to the Gemara, there's a debate in the opinion of Rabbi Tarfon where you say Allah Godless seems like we do look Rabbi Tarfon. So what do we do? We have a disagreement over here between Rabbi Tarfon and the Mishnah, according to this view. The Chayre would make a kenzog. So the Chayre could say, okay, you're not sure, drink an extra cup, but you're not allowed to drink after the 4 cups. The Chayre would make a kenzog. As about das is a sofik, since it's a questions on machmer zayin kidas Rabbi Tarfon. You should be stringent like the Pri Rabbi Tarfon and drink it a kos chamishi. So drink a 5th cup. If you're not sure, 4 or 5, drink a 5th cup. But you can't do so. Because according to view of Chacham, that you only are obligated 4 koisos. You're not allowed to drink a 5th cup. The Rambam sagt, as noch ein Ki mitzvah dal koisos, the Rambam says that after you fulfilled and you drank, did the mitzvah 4 cups, you're not allowed to taste anything besides water. So what do we do? Is the Rambam machriya? V'yesh le'limza kos chamishi v'suloi. Pour the 5th cup, but nothing else. That's what the Rebbe says. Nothing more. Just pour it. V'zolim nit trinken. You should not drink it. U'bemeilot mitzvah. So what you get, you gain both. But drink nor 4 koisos. You're only drinking 4 cup because you're not allowed to drink after the 4th cup. And and you do pour a 5th cup to Yitzhak das Rabbi Tarfon to fulfill the beginning of Rabbi Tarfon. Okay. How are we fulfilling Rabbi Tarfon's view by pouring a fifth cup? If you're not drinking it, you're not making a bracha on it. So what's the point? There is a point. Was hat man from Moisig sein Akos Chamishi? What do we benefit from pouring a fifth cup if you're not drinking it? So what's the point? How is this helping Rabbi? How is this going like Rabbi Tarfon? You find man dugmos about halacha, but we find in halacha similarly. Mezigas kois v'amirolov, to pour a cup and to say on the cup, and drink them and you don't drink it, and yet it's counted, it's something. Suda ber Shabbos will in the Shabbos. You have a Suda on Friday, and then it stretched into Shabbos. So is Lakama Deyas, according to many opinions, Zokter Birchas HaMozen Efakois. You say the Birchas HaMozen on the cup. Afopi, as we can drink in them cause, bis noch Kiddush, you won't be able to drink the cup until after Kiddush. So what's the point of saying Kiddush in a cup when you can't really drink it? Well, Derech Zeh is a benegay, the koises from Leil Pesach. Same thing is with regards to the cups of Leil Pesach. You can say things on a cup even if you don't drink it. Generally speaking, there's two aspects to the four cups. Alav dishti is supposed to drinking four cups. Based those was the chachomim of mesakin given zu zogen, that which the rabbis, the sages, instituted to say of yederen from the vier kois of each one of the four cups. On the far pasken the Rambam, and that's why the Rambam rules as benegay yakois chamishi, as it relates to the fifth cup. The Arfman Moisig sein dem kois, you have to pour the cup. The Leimer Olav Halal Agadol, and to say the large Halal, the Perikuf Lamed Vav from Tilim. Avapis we can drink it, you can't drink it. So Yoitz, because you can't go against the Rabbana, but you want to still. So Yoitz sein, das Rabbi Tarfon HaKopor Binyan Zeh, to fulfill the opinion of Rabbi Tarfon, at least in this aspect of saying on the cup. Really, according to Rabbi Tarfon, you should really drink that cup, but we can't drink it because that would be going against the Chachamim. So at least there's something of it to say the Halal or Halal Agadol on it. This is according to the understanding that Rabbi Tarfon and the Chacham and the Mishnah are in disagreement. And the Rebbe has another interpretation according to those opinions that say that Rabbi Tarfon is not disagreeing our Mishnah. The Rambam learned the Rambam learns as many commentators learn. As Rabbi Tarfon is not mechulik midas Tanakama. Rabbi Tarfon is not in disagreement with the opinion of Tanakama. At the mitzvah to drink and is not a dal cases. That the mitzvah to drink is only the four cups. He doesn't disagree. To begin with, it's not like we're ruling like the Chachamim and compromising with Rabbi Tarfon. Rabbi Tarfon never meant to drink it in the first place. On the Pshat the Rabbi Tarfon, the Girsose, and the meaning in the Rabbi Tarfon, according to his version, Chamishi, Omer Olav Halal Agadol, that the fifth one you say Halal Agadol is as Erdar Blois Moisig Zain Dem Kois. That is what he needs to do. He only needs to pour the cup, them kois. V'loimer olav Halal Agadol, and to say Halal Agadol. I'm not drinking him. He never said to drink it. There's no disagreement. And there is a reason for that. Umilsa b'tayim. And there's a reason that this is a separate concept, this fifth cup. Der kois chamishi is ausgeteilt und ist anders von den anderen vier koises. In dem Geder Kiyum HaMitzvah. The fifth cup is distinguished, is different, and distinguished from the other four cups in the way we fulfill the mitzvah. Unavade, the way the person fulfills the mitzvah, and certainly in in an inyan hapesach mitzvah, in the object of the mitzvah of the cup. There's a difference the way the person does it, and in the cup itself, fifth cup. Like the vier koises zog the Gemara says about the four cups. Arba koisi tiknu rabbanon derech. Four cups, the rabbanon instituted that they should be done in a way of freedom. Kol chad v'chad navid bein mitzvah. Each one of these four cups should be done within a mitzvah. With the Rambam zogt frier, as the Rambam says earlier, kol kois v'kois marba kois salolo. Each one of these four cups, mevorich olah bracha b'fnei atzma. You make a bracha by itself, and you do with mitzvah with each cup. A kois rishon lemer olav kiddush hayoyim. First cup, you make kiddush of the day. You say kiddush on the first cup. Kois sheni. Second cup, koir olav as hagoda. On that cup, you read the Agoda, that's the second cup. Kois shlishi on the third cup. Mevorich olav birchas hamazon. You make the benching. And kois revi, the fourth cup, goimer olav as a halal. Mevorich olav birchas hashir. You conclude the halal, and on that fourth cup, you make the blessing of the shir. What it means again, as we say at the end of the halal nirtzah was haste. Afal pi sheyesh leimar. It means as oich das Rambam. We can say that also going to Rambam kol echad ve'echad from the vier koises uchedes umitzvah b'fnei atzmai is a freedom, and a mitzvah itself kilshen al muzok mishulchanoi. So mitzvah, four mitzvahs. It's a chedes mitzvah atzmai. And yet there is a combination, there's a common denominator. Applicain seine Zeh, alle in demselben Gather Besug Mitzvah. They're still in the same definition, the same category of mitzvah. Aleph, the mitzvah hashava b'chol dalet koises shtil achedes. There's one, drink for freedom. So each one, even though each one does a separate mitzvah, but you're drinking for freedom. And based by yed meinem from zeh another mitzvah. Each one has a different mitzvah. Ba'amiro b'bracha olav. By saying and the bracha on that cup, you're saying something different and you're making a bracha on it. Each one has its separate. So what's the common denominator? It is that you're drinking them all for the freedom. So there's one causes freedom. Number two, each one gets a mitzvah and a bracha on it. Mashenk and the kois chamishi, as opposed to fifth cup. The fifth cup is nit in gather from kiyum mitzvahs dalat koises. It's not part of the fine of the observance of the four cups. The kois hey, the fifth cup is men. Aleph nit shoisa, you don't drink it. There's no drinking for freedom over there. There's no drinking. Beis, the amira olav is nit besuga hamira of the dalat koises. The saying, what you say on it is also not in the same category of what you say in the other four cups. The Dasa Rambam is men of then the Amira of Kos Chamishi nit choyse bebracha. You don't end it with a bracha on the fifth cup. Mashenki the Amira of the Dalat Koises. You conclude everyone with a bracha. The fifth cup doesn't get a bracha, and the fifth cup doesn't get drinking. It's a separate category. And because of that, it's a different item. It's not part of the four cups. It's a standalone. Ula yesh loimer. Perhaps we could say that the kois chamishi was a zog dereif halal hagodl. The fifth cup that he says halal hagodl from Hoidul Hashem ki toiva da al naras bubble. That Hoidul Hashem perik, that's the entire kuflam and bov. Is a halal v'hoido. Rebbe wants to say this is for all the previous four cups. I've closed dal da koises shekim mitzvosam on the general four cups. So this is a cup that you're doing the halal v'hoido for the other four cups that you did the mitzvah. Ubechlolus yois, and even more general, I do have kol mitzvahs va'asiyas. That will be a thank you for all the mitzvahs and everything that was done. Was mit kein belayla hazeh that you did on this night. Ben kamakoyim. It's not the place. The Rebbe suggests it's a different category. You don't make a bracha on it, and the Rebbe suggests that maybe that fifth cup is just saying a thank you for all the other four cups, or maybe for all of the Pesach itself. So it's a standalone, and that's why the way the person and this cup it's different. Uh, you don't drink it because it's a different purpose over here. So now we understand the language. This is not doing the four cups better, but we're adding something new. If the fifth cup was part of the fourth cups, but it's better to do that, say mitzvah and amuvcha, this is not making the four cups better. What it's doing is it's adding a new category. Hey, according to this, we understand the precise language of the Rambam. That he should pour the fifth cup. It doesn't say it's the choicest mitzvah to pour the fifth cup. So because the loshin mitzvah min amuvchar b'derech klal, when we say generally mitzvah min amuvchar, generally badait, that has the meaning ados izahai sofer shleimus in kiyum mitzvah, that it's a sofer shleimus. It adds wholesomeness. It makes it perfection in the observance of this mitzvah. Noch mer, and more than that. Das meint nicht nur Haisofas Mufchar in Kima Mitzvah De'agaber. It's not only a choicest way that the person, the fulfillment of the mitzvah by the person does it in a better way. Nor mitzvah mina mufchar. It's the mitzvah, the object is the choicest way. The maila mina mufchar, the advantage that it's choicest is in the cheftzah da mitzvah. That's in the object of the mitzvah. Valderech Loshen HaRambam. Similar, the Rambam says, "B'negei Neiris Chanukah." With regards to the Neiris Chanukah, mitzvose sheyiyeh kol echad, sheyiyeh kol bayis madlik ner echad. The mitzvah is that every household lights one lamp. Amhader es mitzvah chulu, and the one who makes the mitzvah perfect. Amhader yeser al zeh, mitzvah min amuchan. Even more than this, and does a better. Keeps on saying the better madlik neil kolechel balaylo rishin. On the first night, you make one lamp for each person. And you keep on adding every night and night one lamp. Was that hidur dorten is an uftu mitzvahs neir Chanukah guf. Over there, the perfection is an accomplishment in the light of Chanukah itself. In the Cheftzah, the Neiris Chanukah, Kivur Mokamachar, it's in the object of Neiris Chanukah. The Rebbe explained elsewhere in the Kutasichas, the Chelek Chof, the Rebbe brings down over here. So over there is an improvement and there's a perfection that the Neiris Chanukah get better. But over here, by the fifth cup, it's not improving the four cups. It's a new category. We're as Lashitas Rambam is a Kosh Chamishi Nitin and Gather for mitzvahs dal cases. The fifth cup is not in the definition of the mitzvah of the four cup. Is the Chaych Suzong as the Kosh Hey is min Mufchar. It's not fitting to say that the fifth cup is the choicest in mitzvahs dal cases in the mitzvah of the four cups. In the far Zog the Rambam. That's why the Rambam says. Doesn't perfect the mitzvahs adalat koisus. It's its own mitzvah or its own perfection, own takono. The fathers of the Rambam yesh limza chamishi should pour a fifth cup. Als abazunder tzivi v'chiyuv. It's a separate command obligation. An under loshen v'yesh lo. He says a difference, a separate. He should because this is a separate, really, but it's an obligation, but it's a separate obligation. He should. Und der Fahr ist der Rambam meilig will schöne bekäuse einer heilig marba kaises. It's not like the four cups. Is madgish as der Kois Hamishi, the fifth cup is nicht choiva with the andere kaises, not as mandatory as the other. Nor mer nit v'yesh lo yikenal, only that he should, as we said before, that this is a person should do this cup because this is what Rabbi Tarfon says that he adds that we should have a fifth cup, but it's not the four that has the brachas and everything. But he should do this too. But it's not just mitzvah and amufchar. It's not helping the other mitzvahs. This is something new that he's accomplishing by doing a fifth cup. The Rebbe actually is going to explain now that this is something different than other people want to explain, that the Koshel Yo that we use is somehow connected to this fifth cup that we're talking about here for Rabbi Tarfon. And the Rebbe is going to say, no, that has really nothing to do. That's the fifth cup. We don't do at all because we don't go by this Gemara Girsa with Rabbi Tarfon, but it's not the Koshel Yo that we do, as the Rebbe is going to explain very clearly from the Alter Rebbe's language and the Chok Yaakov. There are those that say, that we take the Koshel Elyo the way we do, that by the Seder we have cup which we call the Kois of Elyo, is verbunden mit Kois Kamishi. That is associated, that is tied to that fifth cup. Bals is da ablukt in Gemara zit medarf haben na Kois Kamishi. Since there is an argument in the Gemara whether we need a fifth cup, and it has not been ruled, but the loch is the far machmasofik. That's why, because of the doubt, is non moizek dam kois chamishi. You pour the fifth cup, and you don't drink it. And the far ruft dem kois shel Eliyahu. That's why we call it the cup of Eliyahu. On that, they're trying to point out with calling it the kois shel Eliyahu, as when Eliyahu vet kumen, when Eliyahu will come, vet mevarer zayin alles fekes, he's going to resolve all doubts. But their suffix wegen dem kois this baraveres, also the doubt about this cup, also will be verified whether it is really needed or not. It's called Koshel Yo. However, from Chok Yaakov, the Malta Rebbe Shulchan Aruch, the Chok Yaakov in the Alter Rebbe is over Muchach, is evident that those are in Tzvei, Bazunder, and Yonim. These are two separate matters. The Koshel Yo is separate than the fifth cup. The Alter Rebbe brings in sein Shulchan Aruch, the Psakaramah. The Alter Rebbe brings in his Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Rebbe, the ruling of the Ramah. But Achar Dalet Kaises, Nogu Kol Yisrael Mederis Arishenim. That after the four cup, it's already a tradition, Jewish tradition from the earlier generations. Shaloi Lishtis Yayin, not to drink wine, Im Loi, the Tzedek Harbe. Unless it's a great need, Kegoinshu Istanis. He's a very delicate person, he has to drink, Oishu Tov Harbe Lishtis, or he has a big desire to drink. He's a kind of either an Istanis kind of a person that needs to drink, or he's very thirsty. If he doesn't have any drinks, only thing available is wine. So we can permit him to drink a fifth cup. And to say on that fifth cup, the large Hallel, the Kuf Lamed Vov, Perek Lamed Vov until in Kuf Lamed Vov, and the prayer of Nishmas and Yishtabach until the end. Und in Friedrich Simen sagt der Alte Rebbe von Chag Yaakov, in the previous Simen, the Alte Rebbe says from the Chag Yaakov, "V'noyagim b'medinas elu." The custom in our country, limzik in our countries is limzik kois echad yeser mehamesubim. V'koirin oisei kois shel Eliyahu hanavi. That we pour one cup, one more cup from those that are mesubim, and we call that one cup shel Eliyahu hanavi. From them is moving from this, it's understood that those eine zwei besondere Sachen legamri, that these are two separate things totally. Ad kedei kach, to the extent Aleph, as is staying, that they are brought down, they're written, seine voneinander geteilt, and they are separated in zwei besondere Simonim, in two separate Simonim. They werden angerufen mit andere Shemes. They're called different names. Kois Shel Eliyahu and Kois Chamishi. That cup is called Kois Chamishi. Over here is called the Kois Shel Eliyahu. Und sie haben in sich Brotim bedinim schönim zemizel. They have details and halachas that are different one from another. Lishtois Kois Chamishi hat man mater gewen lemishet tzorich. To drink, talk about drinking the fifth cup that was been permitted, the one who needs to. Und damol dafür sagen all of halal agodl chulu. Then he needs to say the large halal. Mashenkin koshel Eliyahu neigim b'medina seila, as opposed to koshel Eliyahu, that's a tradition. Not lemishet tzorich, that's a tradition. Nit nor as yesh lahatir. Not only that you can permit if you need it, but that's the custom. And Gimel, Chiluk Achigodl, the biggest difference is just one additional cup from those gathered, those who are Mesubin. The Seder Kol HaMesubin, and that is connected to the Seder of all the ones that are gathered. Need that's not an additional cup, a fifth cup for each one. Mashenke the Kois Chamishi, as opposed to fifth cup, was matig went to Yed Reinim. That's each one is permitted. Anybody who needs to can do the fifth cup. Let's then move on. So from this, so you see that it's totally different. It's a different simon, it's a different name, and it's a different halacha. Over here, it's only one cup from all the people, and that's a minhag. And over the other ones is anybody who wants to, needs another cup, can drink it. Also understand as it connects to the Rambam and his view about the fifth cup. Now, he's of the opinion, as we said earlier, as is nit stama heter or the reshus. The Rambam doesn't say that it's not just allowed or you have a right, nor v'yeshla, it's a chiyuv, there's some obligation. It's not an obligation of one cup for all the mesubim. Nor a kois for kol echad was mekayim mitzvahs daled koises. One for each and every one who is fulfilling the four cups. Yesh loy should make the fifth cup. Yesh loy limzik. He should. I feel nit yesh limzik stam kois chamish. Doesn't say stam limzik. It says yesh loy. But that's a clear indication that it has to do with each individual. Okay, so the Rebbe said this is separate. The Rambam's kois chamishi is not the kois shel Eliyahu. The kois shel Eliyahu in the Shulchan, in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch is different than the kois chamishi, which was mutar, and these are two separate inyanim. Now the Rebbe is going to explain the pnimius inyanim. Really, why is there differences in the halachas between the kois chamishi and the kois shel Eliyahu? What's the idea behind it? Zayin abir b'derech efsher b'pnimius inyanim vos. We want to explain the two issues over here. Aleph, kois chamishi and kois shel Eliyahu zayin zwei besondere Sachen binyonen v'dinem. That these are two separate things. I was going to explain what the meaning of the kois chamishi And what's the meaning of Kishaliyo? That's why they're two, explained is they're two separate matters, two idea, and they're separate halachas. Kinal nochmer. Beis Megefin is a good of we find opposites between the Kis Chamish Kishaliyo. Because Chamishi Paskin the Rambam, V'yesh leaves a Kis Chamishi, the Rambam rules that you should be pouring the fifth cup. Aber lepoil is men sich nit neigase, but in reality, in actuality, we don't have this custom to pour a fifth cup. In Shulchan Aruch is the Psak Halacha, and in Shulchan Aruch the Halacha is, so the Rambam says, Yesh le'livzeh. We don't do so. In Shulchan Aruch is the Psak Halacha, as is not a heter, that would be an allowance, leistnis of the Natoy List is one who is very delicate or needs to drink very hard, very big desire. So we see that the Kos Chamishi, either we should do it, or it's only a permission. But in gay Kos Shalio is Hapesach Adova. It's just the opposite. Der Kos wird nicht der Monti geworden Rishonim. This cup is not mentioned. Not in the Gemara in the earlier Rishonim. They're blazing Achronim. Only Achronim. Und Davke der Kos is geworden Aminik b'chol Tfus Yisrael. And it's specifically that cup became something which is the tradition in all Jewish communities that we put a Kos Shalio. So the Rebbe is explaining why is this. And you find that Tzad HaShoveh in the three cases. We find a common theme in the two cups. Was Lefia now that based on the above, men trinken it mizenor moise. You don't drink them. The Rebbe says that according to the Rambam, according to the Kos Chamishi, that we don't actually drink it. So the common thing is in both of them you don't drink, and also Kos Shalio you don't drink. Mizenor moise, you just pour it. Was der Funis verstandig? So from this, it's understood as beide seine verbunden mit Hazah, beide Madrega, that they're both associated with such a level of service and a step, which is above, higher than a person's service to do something, to drink it. You can't even drink it because it's above, it's a higher level. And this is the inner meaning in them was that Rambam is Messiah. Because this cup is not mandatory like the four cups. Das ist verbunden mit der Madrege, welche Sache verkauft. This is associated with a level which is higher than obligation. As known, the explanation that might have is optional because it's higher Madrege, that's why it's optional. Und also ist benegel lekoise shel yo, welche is verbunden mit der inyan hagula. And the same thing is with the cup of Elio, which is tied to the Gula, but is hecher for Avedis Odom, higher than the service of person. That's why you don't drink it. So both, it's not a chayva, that's for the Kos Chamishi, because it's like Ma'ariv, which is higher than Aveda, and the cup of Elio, which is associated with Geula, which comes Milo, which is higher than the service of the person. Yes. So while they're both higher than Avodah, there's a difference between Kos Chamishi, the fifth cup is Madgish, emphasizes it's the fifth. It follows the service of the person. This is number 5. Is something separate. It doesn't come as a fifth and a continuation of the 4 cups. So we're saying they're both higher than Avodah, but still that is Chamishi, and this is totally higher. It's Bichlal Kos Shalilio. The Amshocha Shali, the Kos Chamishi, comes down, what's drawn down through the fifth cup, kum davke durch them, it can only come through this and nogdem, and only after this is after there is the complete service of the person that precedes it, the four cups. Al derech hamevur wegen der asarusa de leila hagimel, similar to what we explained about the third level in sarusa de leila, was nimshach davke, that arousal of above can only extend, come down, drawn down, nochdem with the ordem great su an asar shlim, after the person prepares a complete place for the to come down. So it comes from above, but the person has to first make himself into an asar shlim, so that the rusa de leilo has where to go. Und der Rebbe während der Kos Chamishi der Mountain Gemara und Zman HaGoyne Varambam, and that's why that fifth cup is mentioned in the Gemara at the time of the Goyne and the Rambam. Und in jene Zmanim sich andere neue gewähnt, and in those times others conducted to jeder for sich vavedose, everybody by themselves and according to their avoda, limza Kos Chamishi, to pour a fifth cup, because their service, the Rishonim Kemalachim Chulu, but their service, they were like angels. That's our generation. That's what Akshu Dora in a surprise, which means rhetorically, we're not in a great. They were but much higher generation. So Baleil Haseder, Shti is Dalil. One day, night of the Seder, we're drinking the four kais. He's given in a hecher and eifin, that was in a higher way. Ubishlemus in a wholesome way. B'meili is Eraveda given a keli, and therefore their service was a vessel, was a proper vehicle of eifnemen in order to accept the hamshocha from the madriga chamishis, to bring down what's extended from the fifth level, which is associated with the fifth cup. So that was in those days. Post to our generation, the Mashiach, the Hills of Mashiach. Was the Avodah Nita Fazekil B'Shleimus as he soll sein a Kli Ruya Asar Shlim. Our service is not in such a complete, wholesome way that this should be a fitting vessel, asar shlim. This would be the full wholesome place, so the echere madrege to the higher level. The far is kois chamishi niten noyhek b'derisenu. That's why in our generations we don't have the fifth cup, because we're not able to make the asar shlim, because our avodah is not wholesome and it doesn't make it an asar shlim. Aber Koise Shel Eliyahu, on the other hand, the cup of Eliyahu is Farbundu mit der Amunah from Eden B'Biyosei. That is associated with the belief of Yidden that he's coming. Wie verstandig for Hemshech Divrei Admur HaZoken, as understood from the continuation of the verse of the Alter Rebbe. As the Anhoga B'Negei LeKoise Shel Eliyahu, Zok der Alter Rebbe, that this conduct as far as the cup of Eliyahu, the Alter Rebbe says, B'Hemshech Tzaz Cholos HaSif, as a continuation, the beginning of that sif. Some places they are accustomed not to lock up the rooms that you sleep there Pesach on the night of Pesach. It's a guarded night, it's a protected night, for all Jewish people for generations. To take us out of this exile. And if Yelio comes, Yimtza Pesach Pasuach, you'll find an open door. It'll be quickly, won't have to even open. It'll be an open door. We won't have to take time to go out. And we believe in it. There's a great reward in believing this. And that, he says, you have the fifth cup of Elio. Because the fun is moving a portion. So you see it's associated. As this is kosher v'shayich, that this is tied and it has a connection to the Amunah and the Gula Hasida, to the belief in the future redemption. Because the Amunah is not by yet, this is by every Jew. Chazan in Alam Aminim, I mean, we're all believers, sons of believers. Niet koekendik. In welchen Eufen sein Avede is because of Hagulim, notwithstanding how his services and his revealed koiches, how he's standing really is in the, but he has that level of maminim b'nei maminim. That's everybody. He's by standing the golui. It's either openly, this is constantly, or minimally in the inner of his soul. He has the amuna b'biyas hamashiach, the belief in the coming of Mashiach. Nit nor mamin chulu, not only believe nor mechakil b'yosi, anticipating, waiting for his coming. This is a command of the Eibishter in the written and the oral Torah. And the contrary, the later we are in the times of the hills of Mashiach, to the Geula, we are closer to the redemption. Als mer und starker is das mehr bei Yidden. So it's more and stronger that it shines by Yidden. On the river, therefore, specifically in the later generation, is Galan, especially one of their minhag. It was revealed, and this custom has been expanded. To pour one more cup from these people that are gathered from the Kohen Oisokeshel Eliyahu, we call it the cup of Eliyahu. Chotshas in the Friede Gedeures gefindt man nicht wegen dem Begol, although in the previous earlier generation we don't find the Begol. The Rebbe is explaining this fifth cup is not the same, or yet in the olden days they did the fifth cup, and today we can't do the fifth cup. We're not in the Madrege to be able to make Asar Shalim, but we do have the Biyah Damun and Biyah Mashiach, so we do have the Koshel Yo, and the later we are, we have more anticipation for Golus, for the Geula for Mashiach. Thus is Aleph Koisecha. This is just one cup. It is Yoser. We call Hamesubim. This is one more. It's not the fifth cup. Before it was Chamishi. This is Echad, it's like one. But this is more Mikol Hamesum comes from all together. But Pizeyesh Levad and Diu Kaloshin can explain the specific language from Alten Rebbe. Limza Koisechad Yeser Mehamesubim B'Koir Neisachulu. What is the Alter Rebbe say? Mehamesubim, from the gathered, from those who are Mesubim. The meat is the Alter Rebbe Meramis. The Alter Rebbe hints as Eliyahu Novi Kumt, that he comes from the Mesubim Meshulchan HaSeder. He becomes one of those who are leaning and participating in the Seder. Kois Echad Yeser Mehamesubim, he's there for the Mesubim Meshulchan HaSeder. Well, the Amunah from Eden B'Leil Zeh, because the Amunah of Yidden on this night, Laila Shenigla Leim Melech Malch Amloch HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'Atzmei. On this night in which to the Yidden was revealed the King of Kings, the Hashem, in his glory by himself, and it comes openly and physically, kois v'yayin, a cup of wine, make the kisel koisel yo, does gufa bringt, when his ma'ira, that brings, that itself, that we're doing this, it brings and it arouses us. Eliyahu Novi, so Gefinim by Yedin say that he should be by every say that. Als Yoser Mikolam, in addition to all those, now you have Eliyahu here too. He's Yoser Mikol HaMesud, more than all the Mesud. Aber b'yachad im zeh, steht sein Kois zusammen, but yet it's standing together, if in selben Shulchas, mit Koises HaMesubim. It's this together with the cups of those Mesubim, those are the regulars, the four cups. Echad min HaMesubim, one of the Mesubim. This is Mesichas, Shabbos Parshas Koirach Tovshin Daled Mem, and Leil Beis the Pesach Tovshin Chavtes.